There is a fatal error that the most ambitious and talented people make. It is a mistake that has destroyed more careers than laziness, incompetence, or stupidity combined. It is a paradox. You assume that to rise in power, you must display your brilliance. You assume that if you work harder than everyone else, if you are smarter than your boss, and if you solve problems that no one else can solve, you will be rewarded. You believe that meritocracy is real. You are wrong. In the cold reality of power dynamics, displaying your superior talents too brightly is not a strategy for promotion. It is a strategy for execution. This is the first law of power. Never outshine the master. Today we are going to deconstruct the psychology of envy, the fragility of the ego, and the biological imperative of hierarchy. We will analyze the historical tragedy of a man who thought he could buy the king's love with excellence, and the triumph of a man who used his genius to make his masters look like gods. By the end of this video, you will understand why being the smartest person in the room is often the most dangerous position to be in. To understand this law, we must travel back to France in the year 1661. The setting is the most opulent court in history. The main character is Nicolas Fouquet. Fouquet was the finance minister of France. He was a man of immense intelligence, taste, and generosity. He loved women, he loved art, and he loved money. But his greatest flaw was his desire to be loved. He wanted to impress his king, the young Louis XIV. Fouquet believed that if he showed the king how capable, wealthy, and powerful he was, the king would make him the prime minister. So Fouquet decided to throw a party. But not just any party. He built a magnificent chateau called Vaux-le-Vicomte. He hired the greatest architects, the greatest painters, and the greatest landscape designers of the age. He invited the entire court. He invited the king. The dinner was a 7-course feast prepared by the finest chefs in Europe. The entertainment was a play written specifically for the occasion by Molière. The gardens were filled with fountains and fireworks that lit up the night sky. It was the most beautiful spectacle France had ever seen. Fouquet walked through the crowd, smiling. He thought he was securing his future. He thought the king would look at this splendor and say, "What a valuable servant I have. Look at what he can achieve." But Louis XIV was not thinking that. As the king walked through the gardens, which were far more beautiful than his own, he did not feel pride. He felt humiliation, he felt small. Every round of applause for Fouquet felt like an insult to the king. The king thought, "If my finance minister can afford this, he must be stealing from me, and if he can command this much attention, he is more powerful than me." The party ended. Fouquet went to bed happy, believing he had won the king's favor. The next morning, he was arrested. The king's musketeers, led by D'Artagnan, dragged him away. He was charged with embezzlement, a charge that was largely fabricated. Fouquet was thrown into a fortress high in the mountains, where he spent the remaining 20 years of his life in solitary confinement. He died alone in the dark. His wife was exiled, his wealth was confiscated, his glorious chateau was seized by the king. In fact, Louis XIV later used the same architects and designers to build the Palace of Versailles, effectively stealing Fouquet's vision for himself. What was Fouquet's crime? He did not plot treason. He did not insult the king to his face. His crime was outshining the master. He wounded the king's vanity. He made the source of power feel insecure. And in the game of power, making the master feel insecure is a death sentence. Now, let us contrast this with the strategy of Galileo Galilei. Galileo was a genius, perhaps one of the greatest minds in human history. But in the early 1600s, he was struggling. He was a mathematician with a low salary, dependent on the whims of rulers for funding. He needed a powerful patron. He invented the telescope and turned it toward the sky. He discovered 4 moons orbiting the planet Jupiter. This was a monumental discovery. He could have named them after himself. He could have named them the Galilean stars. But Galileo understood the first law. He knew that the Medici family, the rulers of Florence, were obsessed with mythology. They believed that the planet Jupiter represented their founder, Cosimo the Fur. So, Galileo announced that he had discovered the Medicean stars. He wrote a book dedicated to the Grand Duke, claiming that these moons represented the virtues of the Medici family. He said that just as the moons orbit Jupiter, the destiny of the world orbits the Medici. He did not claim the glory for himself. He used his discovery to create a cosmic pedestal for his masters. He made them feel like their power was written in the stars. The result? The Medici family made him their official court philosopher and mathematician. They gave him a massive salary. They gave him protection. They made him famous. Galileo did not outshine the master. He made the master shine brighter than ever before. He transformed his own genius into an asset for their ego. How does this apply to your life today? You might say, I am not a courtier, and my boss is not a king. You are wrong. The human brain has not changed in 100,000 years. We are hierarchical social animals. Every group, every office, every business has a king. And every king has an ego that is terrified of being exposed. When you are new to a job, or when you are ambitious, your instinct is to show off. You correct your boss in a meeting because you know the right answer. You propose a radical new strategy that makes the old strategy look stupid. You finish projects in half the time it takes your superior. You think you are being helpful. But biologically, you are signaling a threat. You are triggering the imposter syndrome in your leader. Most people in power are secretly unsure of themselves. They worry that they are losing their touch. They worry that they are getting old. When you come along, young, energetic, and brilliant, you confirm their worst fears. You become a mirror that reflects their inadequacy. A master who feels inadequate will not promote you. They will destroy you. They will find subtle ways to sabotage your work. They will exclude you from meetings. They will label you as difficult or not a team player. And eventually they will get rid of you. So, how do you navigate this minefield? You must master the art of strategic incompetence. This does not mean you should be bad at your job. It means you should occasionally ask for help when you don't need it. Go to your boss and say, I am struggling with this problem, and I know you have experience with this. What would you do? Even if you already know the answer, ask. This makes them feel wise. It validates their position. It makes them feel like the mentor. A master who feels superior is a master who feels safe. And when they feel safe, they lower their guard. If you have a brilliant idea, do not present it as your own. Find a way to trace it back to something your boss said weeks ago. Say, I was thinking about your comment on efficiency last week, and it gave me this idea. Now it is not your idea, it is their idea that you simply executed. They will love the idea because they love themselves. There is, however, a critical nuance to this law. You must diagnose the state of your master. If your master is strong, confident, and rising, you must be the moon that reflects their sun. But if your master is weak, falling, and incompetent, the strategy changes. If you attach yourself to a sinking ship, you will drown. In this case, do not outshine them openly, but do not help them shine either. Distance yourself. Let their incompetence destroy them. And when they fall, be ready to step over their body and take their place. But be careful. The most dangerous trap is the friendship trap. Your boss is not your friend. You might go for drinks, you might joke about sports, you might share personal stories. Do not be fooled. The structure of power is always there, invisible but solid as steel. The moment you get too comfortable and crack a joke that hits their insecurity, or correct them in front of others, because you think you are buddies, the friendship will evaporate instantly. Hierarchy is stronger than friendship. You must also understand the shadow strategy. In nature, the most dangerous predators are not the ones who roar the loudest, they are the ones who blend in. When you shine too brightly, you become a target. Not just for your master, but for your peers. Envy is the strongest emotion in the workplace. If you are clearly the favorite, if you are clearly the smartest, your colleagues will conspire against you. By dimming your light, by playing the role of the humble, hard-working soldier, you become invisible. You can gather information, you can build alliances, you can maneuver without resistance because no one sees you as a threat until it is too late. Remember the metaphor of the sun. In our solar system, there is only one sun. If a second star appeared and tried to burn just as bright, the gravity would tear the system apart. The system cannot handle two centers of gravity. Your goal is not to be the second sun. Your goal is to be the telescope that allows the sun to see itself. Control your ego. This is the hardest part. It hurts to give credit to a fool. It hurts to hide your talent. But you are not playing for applause, you are playing for power. Applause is cheap, power is expensive. By feeding the master's vanity, you buy yourself freedom. You buy yourself time. And eventually, when you have climbed the ladder using them as your support, you will stand at the top. And then you can shine as brightly as you want, because there will be no one left above you to cast a shadow. Master this law, or be destroyed by it. There is no middle ground.